3 weeks ago, a swarm of polo shirt enforcers surrounded my gate, screaming for me to let the HOA through. I cracked open a cold beer, settled into my lawn chair, and held up a scorecard. They had no idea what was coming, because I had 4K cameras recording everything. I had receipts going back decades, and I had a whistleblower ready to expose their entire operation. I said 3 words that changed everything. My land, my rules. But to understand how a simple fence line turned into a war that would end with handcuffs and a $250,000 scandal, you need to know where this all began. People say Texas soil remembers everything. Boots, storms, trouble, and if you stick around long enough, it remembers you too. I've lived on these 12 acres my entire life. The house leans slightly west, like it's got all the time in the world. My grandfather Earl built it with his own hands back when men believed you weren't worth much, unless you left something that could stand a good wind. He used to say, asterisk, boy, you don't just own land. You care for it, and it'll care for you. Asterisk, I believe him then. I believe him even more now. The driveway alone is a 1/4 mile long. Gravel my grandfather laid down in 1967 with a rented grader and a mule that hated mornings. It ends at a heavy iron gate with my last name welded across the middle. The kind of gate that says, without raising its voice, turn around unless invited. Most folks respect that. Privacy is rare these days. So is quiet. But on my land, quiet doesn't visit. It lives here. Mornings start slow. Coffee on the porch. Dogs at my feet. Sun rising soft and orange behind the cedars. That kind of peace? You don't measure it in minutes. You measure it in breaths. Life wasn't fancy. Didn't need to be. I had space. I had quiet. I had enough distance from the next living soul to drink coffee in my underwear without worrying about anyone calling the sheriff. That's a kind of freedom subdivisions don't sell. And for a long time, nobody bothered me. Then Clearwater Ridge showed up. It started with survey flags. Little orange and pink markers sprouting across the road like weeds. Then came trucks. Concrete. Framing crews. Within a year, a full-blown HOA development appeared out of nowhere. They called it Clearwater Ridge, which was funny, because there isn't a clear thing within 10 miles. Just scrub, dust, and a creek that only remembers it's a creek when it rains too much. They built fast. Too fast. All lined up behind a white stucco wall and a decorative sign with swoopy cursive letters. A gated utopia for people who want their world pre-approved and pre-packaged. Out here, we call that decoration for people who don't trust themselves. Running this little kingdom was President Karen Sterling. Sharp haircut, pressed clothes, a voice that could turn the word community into a warning. At first, I ignored them. They stayed on their side of the road. I stayed on mine. But geography became a problem. The back half of their community ran into rough country, brush, rocks, uneven ground. No easy way in for trucks or emergency vehicles. The only logical access? My southern gate, opening onto my private gravel road. The one my grandfather carved with sweat, diesel, and bad language. They saw convenience. I saw my family's backbone. They wanted it. I said no. Simple. But with people like that, no isn't an answer. It's a challenge. That's when trouble started. 3 days after their ribbon cutting, 2 men in reflective vests showed up at my southern gate. Clipboard guys stepped forward with a smile bright enough to need a dimmer. Good morning, sir. We need temporary access through your gate. Construction trucks. It'll save everyone trouble. He said it like he was doing me a favor. I looked at the gate, then at him. This road isn't public, I said. It's on my deed, not your plans. The smile twitched. We can make it worth your while, he said, dropping the neighbor act. The HOA will compensate generously. I shook my head. Slow, clear, final. I've already told your president I'm not interested. This isn't logistics. It's boundaries. He opened his mouth to argue. I cut him off. My land, my rules. The air shifted. Friendly faces slipped off like poorly glued masks. Clipboard guy flipped a page. You might regret that. I smiled. But mine wasn't friendly. "You boys are on private property without permission," I said. "Trespassing." Conversations over. I pulled out my phone and called the sheriff's non-emergency line. Their posture changed instantly. They left before Deputy Miller arrived. Tires chewing gravel loud enough to warn the whole county. Next morning, HOA pamphlets appeared everywhere. Bold red headlines screaming, "Blocking community infrastructure, endangering safety." They even made a website. I didn't get mad. Didn't shout. I added another lock, welded a second bracket, and mounted a new camera. If they wanted to fight, they were about to learn what happens when you pick the wrong enemy. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was watching. I upgraded every camera. Thermal sensors, night vision, motion triggers, cloud backups every half hour. Not paranoia, experience. And right on schedule, trouble arrived. 2:31 a.m. Motion alert along the east fence. I rolled out of bed, grabbed my jacket, and stepped outside. Two figures in black moving along my fence line. One with a flashlight, the other with a big toolkit. They reached the gate. Toolkit guy flipped on a grinder. Sparks shot out like angry fireflies. I didn't yell. Sometimes the smartest move is letting people record their own guilt in 1080p. From behind the tractor shed, I filmed everything. The grinder, the fake paperwork, the cosplay badge for a Riverbend enforcement officer, a position that existed only in Karen Sterling's imagination. Then headlights crested the ridge. Red and blue lights followed. Deputy Miller and another unit rolled up, tires spitting dust. Hands up, step away from the gate. Grinder boy dropped the tool. His partner tried to run, fell face first into mud. By the time I stepped into the light, both were in cuffs. Miller glanced at me. "Mr. Saltz, does this happen often?" Before I could answer, Grinder boy panicked. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding. Karen said it was authorized. She'd handle the paperwork." His partner groaned. Miller tapped his body cam. Confession coming through loud and clear. This wasn't a one-off anymore. It was war. Deputies bagged the fake court order. Even from 3 feet away, the font and signature screamed fraud. Miller asked why the grinder, the forged papers, the 2 a.m. timing. At first, silence. Then Grinder boy cracked. Karen Sterling hired us. She called it expedited compliance operations. Miller blinked. That's not a thing. HOAs don't have enforcement officers, don't issue court orders, and don't authorize 2:30 a.m. break-ins. I delivered all my footage to the sheriff by sunrise. By noon, the investigation was official. By 4 p.m., the HOA released a damage control statement. Asterisk, we distance ourselves from unlawful actions of an independent contractor. Asterisk, translation? Asterisk, we didn't think he'd get caught. Asterisk, that evening, pamphlets appeared again. This time about me. Accusations, blurry photos, fake crime scene tape, poorly photoshopped. But they had no idea what was coming. Because 2 nights later, footsteps approached my gate. Hesitant, nervous. A man stood there in pressed khakis and a button-down, laptop bag over his shoulder. "Mr. Saltz, may I talk to you?" I opened the gate halfway. "That depends. Who are you?" He swallowed. "My name is Tyler Manning. I'm the treasurer for Clearwater Ridge." Something clicked. "I didn't come as a board member," he said quickly. "I came as a homeowner. I can't be part of what's happening anymore." He wiped his palms on his pants. Then he handed me an envelope stuffed with documents. "I shouldn't have this. If she finds out I copied it, she'll destroy me." He took a shaky breath. She already tried. As treasurer, he'd been watching the books. Over the past 6 months, there were discrepancies, large payments, off-book transfers, accounts labeled security operations, and resolution strategy. 40,000 here, 60,000 there. Some routed through shell companies, some paid in cash. I raised an eyebrow. "And who authorized them?" His voice cracked. "Karen. Only Karen." He looked up, ashamed and terrified. "There's over $300,000 missing." He stepped closer. still holding the envelope like it might burn him. She told the board these were for community protection, legal prep, conflict mitigation, but the charges don't match. The vendors aren't real. The invoices are fabricated. "You're coming to me," I said slowly. He met my eyes. "Because she's going to blame me." There it was. The motive, not bravery. Asterisk survival. Asterisk. Tyler pulled out a folded printout, highlighted in red. Asterisk, we can outlast him legally. Even if we're wrong, pressure will make him cave. And if anything goes sideways, the treasurer will take the fall. Asterisk, Tyler looked like a man who'd stood on thin ice too long. I can't risk prison for something I didn't do. So I brought you everything. Emails, meeting transcripts, transaction logs, forged approvals, plans for the break-in, the excavator stunt, plans for more. I took the envelope. He nodded and turned to leave. Before he disappeared into the night, he paused. "You're not the only one she's hurt. You're just the only one not afraid of her." Word moves in a small town. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like creek water finding the easiest path. Instead of letting Karen spin the story, I decided to shine light on everything. I sent emails to local reporters, neighbors, anyone who'd ask questions. Community transparency open house. Saturday. My property. All are welcome. Documentation provided. No anger. No drama. Just sunlight. And sunlight is what people like Karen can't survive. Saturday morning came hot and windy. I set up 2 pop-up tents. One with neatly arranged documents. The other offering free mower blade sharpening. A draw bigger than I expected. By 10 a.m., visitors arrived. Retired couples. Families. Neighbors who no longer trusted the newsletters. Then the reporters showed up. Local journalists who grew up here in new land boundaries and the smell of diesel and pecan trees. They asked straightforward questions. I gave straightforward answers. I walked them along the fence, pointed to the post that had been spray marked, showed where the excavator had sat. Inside the tent, I laid out maps, historical plats, title transfers, tax receipts going back half a century. Next to them, laminated copies of the Clearwater Ridge buyer agreement. One line highlighted in bright orange. Southern ingress and egress not guaranteed or implied. Folks read it and shook their heads. One man muttered, "They bought houses without reading this?" Another said, "Sounds like someone lied to them." I didn't add a word. The documents spoke for themselves. Tyler Manning arrived too. No HOA name tag. Just jeans and a t-shirt. He hung back, avoiding reporters, occasionally glancing over his shoulder. Around noon, Clearwater Ridge residents started showing up, some out of curiosity, some from guilt, some because their conscience had finally outshouted their Facebook group. One woman approached slowly, clutching her purse like a shield. "I'm sorry," she said. "We didn't know. We thought you were being unreasonable." I nodded. I wasn't there to humiliate anyone, just to let the truth be seen. She exhaled. Today helped. By late afternoon, my driveway felt almost festive. Kids ran around. Coffee thermoses clinked. Reporters scribbled notes. The most important change? Who didn't show. The HOA's Facebook group went silent. No signs. No protesters. No stage drama. Karen Sterling had vanished from public view. As the last visitors left and the sun sank behind the cedars, I stood quietly in the cooling air. For the first time since it started, the wind didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a shift. The Travis County Courthouse has a smell. Old paper, dry wood polish, recycled air, and tension you can feel in your teeth. I arrived early. Pressed shirt, clean boots, the clothes my grandfather saved for serious days. The HOA legal team huddled together like they shared one nervous system. Matching suits, matching notebooks, matching fear. Karen Sterling sat at the center, jaw tight. She wouldn't look at me. Behind her, Tyler Manning. Different from last time. No hiding, no fear. Just finished. The judge entered. Sharp eyes, silver hair, No patience for nonsense. Riverbend HOA versus Mr. Saltz. Petition for temporary access easement. Council proceed. The HOA went first. Their lawyer presented aerial photos, hypothetical emergencies, flowcharts full of arrows. He even argued my lock gate endangered regional resilience, whatever that meant. Then my lawyer, Miss Davis, stood, and everything changed. She moved with the calm of a surgeon who already knew the outcome. First, my deed, then the 1967 plat map. 55 years of tax receipts on the private road. Photos of the excavator trespassing. Paint marks on my fence. Workers with flags. The judge leaned forward. Miss Davis tapped her laptop. The lights dimmed. Nighttime break-in footage filled the courtroom. Sparks from the grinder. A fake enforcement badge. A forged court order. The HOA team shrank. Then the helmet cam video played. The man in the polo shirt. Stage shouting. Dramatic fall into the dirt. A few people in the gallery snorted. Someone whispered, "Good Lord." Miss Davis projected another document. Here's the $500 payment receipt for that man's appearance fee, authorized by President Sterling. Karen went white. Then Miss Davis moved to the core of the dispute, the Clearwater Ridge buyer agreement. The judge's eyes halted at the highlighted line. Southern ingress and egress not guaranteed or implied. The courtroom fell silent. Were homeowners informed? The judge asked. Karen opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Miss Davis gestured to the bench. The treasurer wishes to testify. Tyler stood, raised his hand, swore in. Mr. Manning, Miss Davis began. Tell the court what you discovered. Tyler swallowed. President Sterling misrepresented that clause to homeowners. She said the Southern Road was approved. She withheld board votes. She authorized harassment payments, disguised as contractor fees. Miss Davis handed him a page. Total amount of unauthorized expenditures? Tyler looked down, voice barely above a whisper, but the mic carried it. $300,000. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Miss Davis pressed forward. And when you questioned President Sterling? Tyler's voice steadied. She said she'd pin it on me. Treasurers go down first. Karen lurched to her feet. That's a lie. He's twisting. The judge slammed the gavel. Half the room jumped. Sit down. Karen sank. Miss Davis finished. Your Honor, this petition isn't about access. It's about control, retaliation, falsified authority, and financial misconduct. The judge didn't hesitate. Petition denied with prejudice. Evidence referred to the district attorney for criminal review. Karen looked unplugged. Her lawyer stared at the floor. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I simply exhaled. A long breath I'd been holding for months. The war wasn't over, but the battlefield had shifted. Karen wasn't a hunter anymore. She was a prey. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. Tyler, asterisk, county auditors are here. They're asking questions. Karen didn't show. Asterisk. Around noon, a reporter called. Mr. Saltz. The county confirmed a financial review of Riverbend HOA. Comment. No, I said, but I'll listen. She chuckled. It's messy. By mid-afternoon, word spread. Multiple financial irregularities flagged. Consultant fees. Security ops. Contractors paid off the books. Total, $374,000. Half approved without board vote. Half buried under fake maintenance items. Fraud. The HOA board met that night. Residents crowded in. I stayed home, porch, cold drink in hand, hearing echoes across the road. Asterisk, you lied. Asterisk. Asterisk, where's the money, Karen? Asterisk. Trust is like a fence post. Once it snaps, you can't fix it. The meeting ended with motion to suspend Karen. She refused. Of course. People like her dig deeper. But digging doesn't help when the hole is under your feet. 3 days later, I was welding a brace on my eastern fence when I heard sirens. Not frantic, just steady. Sheriff SUV. Then another. Then a county investigator sedan, heading straight to Karen Sterling's home. Residents peeked from windows, stepped onto porches. Karen appeared. White blouse. Forced smile. Officers read the charges. Fraud. Conspiracy to commit trespass. Misappropriation of funds. Document tampering. Asterisk, asterisk. Handcuffs clicked. Shock replaced her confidence. Behind her, the HOA sign rattled in the wind. Asterisk, Riverbend Estates. A community of trust. Asterisk, a neighbor filmed. Someone whispered, "Well, that didn't age well." Karen ducked her head. Cameras caught all. The walk of shame. One last glance at the sign she once stood in front of. The community watching her leave in cuffs. The HOA dissolved 2 weeks later. License revoked. Operation suspended. A state-appointed overseer sorted the wreckage. Tyler turned down the role. Stopped by my place one evening. Hands in pockets. Eyes tired but lighter. "I never wanted it to go this far," he said. "I know you didn't." I replied. "Do you hate us?" he asked. "No, but I'm keeping my gate closed." He smiled. Small. Sincere. Fair enough. Life didn't snap back overnight, but quiet returned. Dogs barked at nothing. Whined through the cedars. The hum of honest work. One afternoon, pouring concrete along the eastern fence, I mounted solar lights and hung a hand-painted sign. No trespassing. Private land. Neighbors still visit. The ones who apologized. The ones who learned. I don't hold grudges, but the gate stays closed. Weeks passed, then months. Time smoothed the edges. Mornings, coffee in hand, dogs trotting beside me, pausing by the eastern fence where the excavator once sat. Now, quiet, reinforced, solid. Evenings on the porch, sun melting behind the horizon, orange and purple glow. Distant highway traffic, coyotes calling. I think about my grandfather a lot, what he would have said. Asterisk, a boundary means something only if you defend it. Asterisk, simple truths. A line is a line. A lie is a lie. A gate is a gate. Late one afternoon, Tyler stopped by one last time. "Strange," he said. "The HOA treated you like the enemy, but you might have saved this place." "How?" I asked. If Karen kept going, we'd all be in debt, in court, or worse. Sometimes holding the line keeps everyone from falling off the cliff. I said nothing. He clapped my shoulder once and left. A man grateful to have a future. That night, locking the gate, I ran my hand along the metal. Not pride, just closure. Before heading back, I whispered into the dark. My land, my rules. The wind didn't answer. Some things are settled forever once you say them out loud.